So we would like to highlight a small part of globalization within the nursing perspective. Due to our prior knowledge, it's more easier for us to highlight and relates with our strategies to speed up globalization under nurses and nursing perspective. So nurses in Southeast Asian countries are diverse and unequal distribution. In most high-income countries like Brunei, 50% of nurses workforce are expatriates. And in Singapore, more than 7,000 nurses are foreigners. And aside from middle-income countries like Thailand and Malaysia, the Philippines has long been recognized as the largest exporters of nurses. By all means, more and more nurses migrating from the country for international employment. Likewise, in Indonesia, also exports many nurses. By contrast, low-income countries like Cambodia and Myanmar are not really engaged in international markets. And this is what ASEAN look like. So we consist of 10 countries. On one hand, nurses out-migration has been said to increase national revenue for the home countries, as well as to improve the financial situation for the families. Not to mention, as a way out for the government to reduce unemployment rates within the country. However, the situation has been should be seen as a paradox, as on the other hand, the nurses out-migration also contributed to critical shortages of health workforce, unequal health distribution in their home countries, and also further deplete the health system. There is a continuing trend for international migration of nurses from low and middle income countries to high income countries. The out-migration is even higher in Southeast Asian countries where English is the second language, like the Philippines, where more than 85% of the graduates are moving out from the country for international employment. Yet there is also a study indicating that increasing trend of out-migration among young nurses who are provisioned in non-English speaking countries like Thailand and Indonesia as well. Despite the unclear number of these young nurses, most of the young nurses in Indonesia and others are moving out to Japan, Middle Eastern countries, and also Taiwan, and probably to Singapore, Malaysia, and Brunei. So nurses are pushed by the low employment opportunity, poor working conditions, substandard wages, lack of legal protection, and also unstable political and safety, as well as poor health protection. Like in Indonesia, the overproduction of nurses had caused high unemployment and low salary. The government themselves directed the graduates to international employments and set up some different arrangements with destination countries. This step, however, often resulted to de-skilling phenomenon in destination countries, which is unfortunately often unseen. Better salary, better working condition, advanced technology and support, stable socio-political environments, career opportunity for investment, and others are the pulling factors for the nurses. And added with the global burden disease, shortages of nurses, and like in another instance in Taiwan and Japan, it is reported that the two countries had imported more than thousands of nurses from Southeast Asian countries to work in aged care facilities. While in Middle Eastern countries, nurses are employed in hospitals. These are the potential consequences that have been happening out there: de-skilling, brain waste, brain drain, health maldistribution, and shortages mentioned in many research. De-skilling has also been experienced by nurses who are working in Japan and Taiwan due to their lack of familiarity in understanding the job description. They were disappointed by the unfamiliar term of caregiver in destination countries. Many of them expected to work in better condition, have experience in operating advanced technology, and upgrade their skills while working as nurses. This situation is quite different in Middle Eastern countries, where migrant nurses who return back to the countries gain their skills and knowledge in operating advanced technology. The challenges in education to meet international market in Southeast Asia is quite huge. Is that because the language, the curricula, the length of the study, the qualification for one to be nurses are varied. The shortest period of time of one being a nurse is in Singapore at 3.5 years, and the longest one is in Indonesia. 4 years of academic and additional 1 year of professional stage, where mostly others are 4 years. In the current practice, the mutual recognition arrangement that had been signed by the Asian Joint Coordinating Committee in Nursing back in December 8, 2006. The document was set as agreement for Asian member countries to recognize the nurse professional across Southeast Asia. However, this does not mean that one who has been registered as a nurse in home countries can automatically work in different countries within the Southeast Asia. They still have to take another national examination within the local language throughout the Southeast Asian countries. However, in the view of nurse exporting countries like the Philippines and Indonesia, more and more young people are being recruited as nurses to meet the international demand. Yet, however, the MRA or the mutual recognition arrangement have not yet fully implemented. Migration can be managed through holistic approach and should be seen as a way to improve domestic health while meeting global challenges. Returnees can be seen as potential resources to influence local practice through education provision. These are the proposed agenda. At least we propose 4 additional ways to consider preparing future nurses as global citizens. The international experience remains insufficient as a mechanism for the human resource development in the context of many Asian members. Thus, student, staff, and teachers' exchanges can be seen as a short-time booster in aligning with the expected international qualification in nurses. Secondly, the capacity building schemes and space for creativity are required to improve nurses as educators. Given the current practice of education are varied among countries, nurse educators need support to move further than just the creation of international placement opportunities for future nurses, as well as in providing the concept of global citizenship to their students. Thirdly, the infrastructure need to be supported, in the areas of teaching and learning, particularly to support wider experience of learning. And all that, academic partnership can be seen as an umbrella to develop future for nurses and global health. Thank you very much.